up a three. And goal!
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman of Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. He is my co-host, Neil Meyer from Rivals Cincinnati athletics coverage site, the frontofficenews.com. We're coming to you following the 2025 NFL Draft, where Cincinnati had a surprise lone selection in the 250-plus pick slate. John Williams heading to the Green Bay Packers with their 7th-round pick. We'll discuss that and get to the locations for the Cincinnati Bearcats football players that signed undrafted free agent contracts. We have another addition on the football side of things to discuss as well. And then we'll get to a possible addition on the basketball side that would likely maybe wrap things up, if not for one more straggling addition down the line in the coming weeks for Wes Miller and Corey Evans and their basketball transfer portal escapades. But first, before we get to all that, want to get a quick message in from our great sponsors on the Believe Network. Stay tuned through that, and we will bring you the latest Bearcat Blitz, whether you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or watching on YouTube. Coming your way after these messages on the show. Neil, we start with John Williams here, realizing his NFL dream. I had a feeling John had a solid shot to be drafted, just given how consistent he was at the left tackle position for Cincinnati over the past couple of years, and just the fact that he tested pretty well and seemed like a guy that could be one of those late round options for teams in the 2025 NFL Draft. Career high 75.3 Pro Football Focus grade this past season, Neil. It was his best season as a Bearcat. Really seemed to thrive with his game once Nick Cardwell started shaping and molding his skill set and his arrival back before the 2023 season. Huge congrats to John Williams. Always enjoyed talking to John. Seems like a really nice guy. And he gets to go to Green Bay to realize his NFL dream. Very, very cool moment and cool day for John Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great thing you mentioned that too, Russ, because not only have we gotten to know John on a personal level over the last few years of covering him, his transformation basically in his playing career has been incredible over the last 2 seasons, especially under Coach Nick Cardwell and the job that Cardwell has done with the offensive lineman for Cincinnati. And this was a guy, Russ, who was not really rated as a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. He redshirted his freshman year, worked his way as a reserve guy the first 2 years, and then started 24 games over the last 2 seasons and became a staple. He started all 24 games for Cincinnati dating back to 2023. And I mean, his presence is going to be missed on that left side of that offensive line, to say the least. And it's a big gap to fill for a guy like Joe Cotton coming in. But for people who followed John Williams at the draft or throughout this process, he tore it up at the NFL Combine, 29 reps on the bench press, which was 6th most of any offensive line. He only allowed 1 sack in 823 snaps, if I remember right, this past season. So overall, a very excellent career for John Williams. And for those worth noting too, Russ, if I remember right, I believe John only took 1 top 30 visit. And where was it? To Green Bay, which is where he lands in the 7th round. So he keeps the streak going for Cincinnati, who has now seen a player drafted in the NFL draft for the last 10 years. So 10 years and counting for Cincinnati. So it's an incredible honor to see John Williams go to Green Bay.
And then, surprisingly, Neil, no draft pick home for Luke Kandra, who was a top 200 talent on the consensus big board, was a guy that many people expected to get selected at some point in this cycle, entered the weekend as, let's see here, the 181st ranked player on the consensus big board. An absolute snub, I would say, Neil. It's shock that Luke Kandra did not get selected in the entire draft, let alone in the first 5 rounds at that. But he gets his pick of the litter when you go undrafted, and he is one of the many Bearcats to sign an undrafted free agent contract following the weekend festivities. Kandra heading to Carolina as the start of his NFL career, going to be playing with the Panthers. Jared Bartlett headed to New York for his time with the Jets. Corey Kiner headed to San Francisco after he went undrafted. Jamoy Mays staying in Cincinnati. The Bengals met with Mays just right before the draft last week after the local pro day. They're impressed by Mays at the local pro day. He ends up signing a free agent contract with them. And then we got Josh Minkins to New England and D'Artagnan Tinsley to the Cleveland Browns. Sounds about right, Neil. That's basically, that was the crew that I expected to see maybe sign undrafted free agent contracts. Unfortunately, nothing popped up yet for Xavier Henderson. He was a guy we thought maybe could play his way into the NFL draft discussion at the start of last season, but that just never really materialized. One draft pick for the Bearcats, Neil, and I'm sure the entire staff, the entire talent acquisition team, everybody wants to see that streak not only continue next year, but start getting back into the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to the 2021 historic class with 9 Bearcats drafted. You want to start seeing more professional talent go to the NFL ranks from Cincinnati moving forward here as they fully get the program molded, I would say, and shaped at this point in the Scott Satterfield staff image.
Yeah, well, first of all, Russ, I know you mentioned it. Luke Kandra going undrafted was something nobody expected in this draft. And I mean, I know you and I talked. I was on the road all day Saturday in the morning covering the Rivals combine down in Indianapolis. So I rushed back on the way home thinking there was a shot, hopefully, where he was going to go expected in the beginning of the 4th round, anywhere from round 4 to round 7, and get back around 2:30. And I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, okay, where's Luke going to go? And then he ends up slipping, going undrafted, and which is something that's crazy to think about, Russ, because, you know, many teams had Luke as a top 200 prospect, maybe even higher in this draft class, and he comes with all the intangibles. And he's probably one of the strongest offensive linemen in the draft, was one of the best guards in all of college football this past year. And somehow he ends up undrafted, which is still crazy to me to even think about. But not only does that, he now gets to pick his home where he chose Carolina. And Russ, if I'm Carolina right now, you got to be pretty happy with how things went, not only in the NFL draft, but getting a guard like Luke Kandra as undrafted is a huge, huge addition and a huge steal for Carolina as well. So I was very shocked to see Luke Kandra go undrafted. I know his draft party was right down the road from where I'm at, currently on the west side, so was kind of waiting for the news, and then we were going to go kind of sit back and see what was going on with him and his feelings about being drafted, but ultimately didn't go that way. And then on top of it, it was great to see Corey Kiner get an opportunity. I think I was on the phone with his agent back and forth, Don William, his agent of Young Money Sports. I was on the phone with him back and forth throughout the afternoon, thinking they had a couple teams in mind that had a little bit of interest in him there late in the 5th, late in the 6th, that they thought maybe he could slide up and go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it sounds like it came down between Tennessee, New Orleans, and San Francisco. And Russ, it's safe to say right now there's a legit shot that Corey Kiner could make San Francisco's 53-man roster out of camp due to the offseason moves that Carolina had. They traded Jordan Mason away. Now Corey gets to learn behind arguably one of the best backs in the league, when healthy, in Christian McCaffrey. I think it's a perfect landing spot for Corey Kiner, and I would not be surprised if he finds his way onto that 53-man roster come week 1. I think you and I can say that due to his consistency, his work ethic, the grind.
I would be surprised. I would be surprised, Neil. I mean, he's 6th on the depth chart right now. I would be a little surprised if he were to make it on, but he's got a chance for sure. I mean, he's behind Patrick Taylor, James Jordan, Isaac Arundo, Christian McCaffrey, and Israel Abanikanda, all players with prior experience. So it's going to be a long road to hoe for all these guys to make a roster. But I think at least 2 of them are going to make it, and I would say Kandra and Kiner have the 2 best chances to make a roster.
Yeah, and then Josh Minkins, it was great to hear him. I know I was talking on the phone with him quite frequently through his draft, throughout this whole process for him, and one team kept coming in mind in our conversations, and it was New England was all we were hearing. What I was hearing from him directly throughout this process, and he said New England called him on day 3 late, and that's where he went. He said he's going to trust what Coach Vrabel has in plan for him. So it's great to see that addition. Happy for Josh as well, and happy for all these guys. But Jamoy May staying local was huge. I heard he had a really good local pro day for Cincinnati and really turned some heads there. So that's a good opportunity for him. But yeah, D'Artagnan Tinsley staying right up the road in Cleveland as well. First guy out of a, think about it, Russ, too. D'Artagnan's story is so interesting and so unique because he started at the Kentucky Christian College down in there.
Yeah.
And now he's becoming essentially the first guy to ever play at Kentucky Christian now in the NFL. So he's got a unique story there. He's ready to etch his name. Man, there's a lot of good guys going out there ready to work from this group from Cincinnati. So it was great to see them kind of find their homes. And I'm sure hopefully we see some names or some news pop up with guys like Xavier Henderson, maybe Eric Phillips here, hopefully within the next few days. But those would be the two guys that were left out of the senior group from Cincinnati that probably could have turned a little bit of heads, but it's kind of shocking to see. We haven't seen any rumblings on those two guys yet.
Yeah, and UFL also an option for all these guys as well. With that season, I think kicked off already. The UFL started either a couple weeks ago. It's too much football now. I can't follow the UFL. It's not for me. But more power to people who follow that league and want the spring football action. And more power to all these guys in their pursuit of the NFL dream. Hope as many of them can make it on the NFL rosters in the final cut days once we get to that point in first week of September. It will be this year in 2025 for the NFL team. So Jared Bartlett, Luke Kandra, Corey Kiner, Jamoy Mays, Josh Makins, D'Artagnan Tinsley, all signing undrafted free agent deals. And the lone draft pick to keep the streak going for Cincinnati, John Williams, to the Green Bay Packers. To round out our look at Cincinnati Bearcats football action on the NFL draft side of things, some news and notes, Neil. We have Eli Stein coming to the Cincinnati Bearcats football outfit in what could be an unsung, less talked about portion of the special teams redux and reintegration and just revitalization this season that could make a huge impact down the line, Neil. When played at Wisconsin and Arkansas, snapped for Max Fletcher actually during his all SEC second team season 2 years ago, has 1 season of eligibility left. We heard Scott Satterfield talk about the snaps and just the consistency of the snaps, needing that to be cleaned up with being the only issue he saw in the field goal kicking game under Steven Rusnak in the spring. And now, Neil, it looks like they have upgraded at the snapping position.
Yeah, and it's a great thing you noticed. You mentioned it too. I mean, you look down at that long snapper room. You have Weston Simmons. You have George Leopold. You now have Eli Stein. And when you look at Eli Stein,
and who was it last year from Indiana State? Was it Kason Pfeiffer? That was
Kason Pfeiffer was the year before. He went to Wisconsin with Fickle. It was Jaden Perry last year.
Right, Perry. That's who it was. Was he the guy? He was the guy at Indiana, I'm pretty sure. But
Indiana State, yep. But you look down at it, and it's actually a bigger addition than people realize, Russ, especially because we heard Scott Satterfield and then mention the special teams and the snapping game when we've talked to him throughout spring. 6'3", 230-pound long snapper, was an all SEC freshman back in 2022, was also on the Patrick Manley Award watch list in 2023 for the best long snapper. So overall,
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's cool. They got an award. That's awesome. How do you even is it like, if you have 2 perfect long snappers, Neil, do you go through revolutions per minute on the football? Is that how you do the tiebreaker? I don't even know how.
I don't know. At
some point, you're just perfect. I don't know how you get it.
But that was the little tidbit that we had in our article, was his past accomplishments. Awesome. And if you think about it too, Russ, that 2023, his watch list award, the Patrick Manley Award watch list for the best long snapper, that happened to be Max Fletcher's best season, where he led the nation in punting. So overall, I mean, they have a great connection, and I would not be surprised if he comes into Cincinnati here late in the spring and wins the long snapper job for Cincinnati. And those two have the connection, and Max Fletcher had a great spring. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two translate from Arkansas. I know he spent some time at Wisconsin this spring, but now back in Cincinnati. So there's a lot of connections there for Eli Stein. I mean, with former head coach Luke Fickell now coming back to Cincinnati, there's a lot of connections here for Eli Stein. I'm pretty excited to see what he'll be able to do in the special teams game and the next step that they're going to be able to take under the new coaching staff.
Hopefully a much more well-oiled machine on the special team side of things this fall than last fall. And if spring practices were any indication from what I saw, I think it's going to be a lot cleaner of an operation and a lot more, which I say, vivid operation, a lot more clear operation in terms of who's taking these punts back, who's taking these kicks back. You're not going to have a kicking change this season. I would be shocked if that happens. You're going to have a hierarchy ready to go, and you're going to have, I think, a clean operation for the most part and a top half. I would be pretty surprised if Cincinnati, with all of the investment and all of the change and all of the time they're putting into that forgotten phase of the game, if they don't have at least a top 60 special teams unit overall once we get to the end of November this coming fall. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to the next thing on the docket for Cincinnati Bearcats athletics, the big IPF opening, the indoor practice facility opening in just less than 2 months. At the end of May, it's projected, and we have a name for the IPF as well. We'll get to that, plus the latest on the basketball transfer portal after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. Neil, the indoor practice facility has a name. The Sheekley Indoor Practice Facility and Sheekley Athletics Performance Center, named in honor of the massive donation, longtime donors. Larry and Rhonda Sheekley, the Sheekley family, have been fantastic with their generosity towards Cincinnati Bearcats athletics. He's a massive fan of the football team, and he's a big reason, Neil, why the $134 million facility is about to be getting the final coat of paint here in the next few weeks, with all of the interior operations kind of getting involved right now. I think the exterior of the building, I'm pretty sure, is basically almost done. They're just putting together all the interior bells and whistles and getting that thing ready. We've had, I think, 2 or 3 walkthroughs so far during construction. Neil, we're about to have the coolest walkthrough yet in the next few weeks. We get to see what that thing looks like when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic walking through that $134 million indoor practice facility that probably could be one of the most state-of-the-art practice facilities in all of the country. So it's going to be
we need a ranking. We need a football performance facility ranking or something. We need the industry leaders of football performance facilities to go around, and
we need like the Dude Perfect crew. I know they travel around to a lot of these, and we need them to kind of see like who's rated the highest here. Which facility would you rank the highest? But
right.
Overall, I'm excited, Russ, to be out there and kind of look through it. I think we kind of knew what the name was going to be surrounding the old practice facility. But
and shout out to Justin Williams of The Athletic for first reporting that before the school announced a little later this morning.
But it's going to be fantastic to see in there, and you kind of see and you kind of hear all the players kind of talking about their excitement, their anticipation to get in there and kind of get right to work. I mean, 120-yard football field, a nutrition station, a top of the notch training room, all that good stuff in there. Man, Russ, it's crazy to think that we're only just a month away from it being done. And I know the weather right now is holding up perfect, so hopefully they're able to kind of get ahead on some days before this rain comes. But man, I'm so excited to see it. And I know with the announcement, it sounds like they're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony on June 11th as well, which is huge. So get on out there and kind of support the University of Cincinnati and the job that they have done on building this state-of-the-art indoor practice facility.
Very excited to check that thing out in just a few weeks, as we'll be moving from practices at Nippert Stadium to almost every practice at the Sheekley IPF, and some outdoor practices here and there. They'll want to get them in the elements every now and then, but won't have to deal with what was it, 2 weeks ago? It was the hardest I've ever seen it rain on in Cincinnati when they had to cancel a practice a couple weeks ago. And once you start, unfortunately, in the NCAA rules, once you start a practice, you have to finish it that day. You can't just pick it up and add a day to your schedule. So no more worries about inclement weather taking out any of their reps moving forward with the Sheekley IPF. And moving forward, Neil, into the basketball transfer portal, where Cincinnati is trying to find, it seems, that extra solid piece in the front court. And we have some new movements on the portal side of things when you think about followings as noted by Bearcat Bunch, Eric Lilly's done a great job of keeping track of the Instagram follows throughout this entire month plus stretch here in the transfer portal. Baba Miller now followed by Kirk Risa and Andre Morgan as of April 26th on Instagram. Neil, the writing's kind of on the wall there. I don't know that we'd get both of those follows in the same day if movement wasn't happening heavily towards Baba Miller becoming a Cincinnati Bearcat. At least I would expect it's an announcement sometime this week. Would be a massive addition. Would really help with the lineup versatility in the front court. He's a guy that can play inside, can play outside. You can play him as a all five shooting player lineup option. You can play him as a kind of shooting five next to a bigger four who doesn't shoot as well. 6'11", 215 pounds, 11.3 points, 1.7 blocks, and 7 rebounds last season on 48.6% shooting. One more season of eligibility after transferring to FAU from FSU last season. Shot 34% from deep as well. Neil, I'm saying the whistle because I'm trying to hold myself back from getting super excited about what's looking like another very last year wasn't well constructed, but well added to roster when you think about talent elevating each year under Wes Miller. And even if they don't add Baba Miller, the talent's already elevated if they replace him, if they add a replacement guy and not Baba Miller. But Baba Miller would definitely shoot the talent up and be a versatile piece in the front court to mix with a strong front court that wasn't really existing a couple weeks ago and now boasts Jalen Haynes, Tyler McKinley, Mustafa Tiem, and Halvin Zealot.
Yeah, overall, that could be a big time addition for Cincinnati, especially with Halvin Zealot still kind of transitioning to the college game. Tyler McKinley coming back from injury. Mustafa Tiem, one of the most sought after players in the portal. Jalen Haynes, and then you have the potential bringing in a guy like Baba Miller, who's 6'11", can play inside out. Played at Florida State before playing at Florida Atlantic. Averaging 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and nearly 2 blocks per game. That's a big-time addition for Cincinnati if they are able to get this job done. And for that, you look at what it takes to be in the Big 12, right? And, I mean, they're going to need the size and the depth, especially there in the front court when you know that you lost most of your key contributors from that position last season.
I mean, you could be playing 2 7-footers that can reliably hit a three. If Baba Miller joins this team, when you think about him mixing with Mustafa Tiem, both 7 feet tall, both 2+ blocks per game, both 29% plus 3-point shooters. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You sit down, you see that, you're like, yeah, that's nice because Cincinnati lacked that ability last season. I know we saw Arrington Page hit 2 threes at one point, but overall, they lack that. And you now have 2.
I think those were wide open too. I'm pretty sure for a reason.
Well, there was one that, if I remember, he did hit a step back 3, and we all kind of looked at it.
Yeah, that's right. He did. Yeah,
we were like, right. AP has that in his bag. All right, but
the only time we saw it, unfortunately.
But yeah, so to add those 2 kind of players, man, Russ, if they're able to land a guy like Baba Miller, this portal cycle is going to be pretty interesting to see how things come together, lineup construction, lineup rotations, and whatnot. But based on paper, we could be sitting in another situation where we're like last year heading into the season. All right, they constructed a great lineup on paper.
I know.
All the hopes are going to be up, but then it's going to be like, okay, what does this team actually look like when they all get to gel on the court? They go through summer workouts. They go through these fall workouts, and then it's right into the season. So it's going to be interesting. But, man, I'm starting to get excited again. That basketball season's right around the corner in a couple months.
Oh, hope springs eternal, always in the city of Cincinnati with the old sports outfits. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. A lot of fun on the Bearcat Blitz to start this week, our show to start this week, and we hope you will stick with us for another show. We'll probably be coming to you on Friday and picking up the pieces for what could be the end of the basketball transfer portal editions, depending on what happens in the next few days. We'll have you covered with whatever happens in the next 72 to 96 hours. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Enjoy your week, everybody.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.